Gio made a really interesting point yesterday in his video about the takeover, and it was basically suggesting that Golden Sullivan's reputation with the West Ham fans is so bad that it's not that people are excited about PAI Capital coming in. I would imagine most don't know who they are, and I've had a little look, by the way. It's just that it's all anyone other than Gold and Sullivan, which is sort of understandable. But a note of caution: Gold and Sullivan have got history for selling a football club, so we can actually look at what they did. They had a football club. It's called Birmingham City. They sold it. They sold it to a guy, if you remember, called Carsten Young. Carsten Young, within a year of buying Birmingham City Football Club, was imprisoned by the Chinese for fraud. It was a terrible sale. In terms of Premier League, the sale of a Premier League football club, which it was then, it didn't stay a Premier League football club for long, and it's never recovered, by the way. It goes down as one of the worst, one of the very, very worst. Perhaps only Portsmouth and Leeds were worse than that, but it's bad, really bad. So we understand, well, at least I would suggest that that if Gold and Sullivan are saying that they want to do a vetting process and they only want to sell to somebody who can afford the club and who will take the club forward, we only have one example to go on, and that's Birmingham City, and I would suggest their vetting process for that. If they did one, maybe they didn't, maybe Birmingham City was different, maybe they just thought, we'll just sell it to anyone that comes along. But I would suggest their vetting process was not great for that, was it? Because they couldn't, well, let's be fair, they sold it to a criminal. They sold the club to a criminal. Simple as that. I only make that point because it goes to show that not anyone is better than Gold and Sullivan. I mean, it's just not the case. Now, I'd like us to be taken over. I'd like us to be taken over by someone that can afford us, and I'd like us to be taken over by someone that's going to move us forward. Most importantly, I would like somebody that's going to respect the heritage of the club and move the seats forward in the stadium. All of them. Not just a couple, a little bit. All of them. Reconfigure, whatever. I don't care what anyone has to do. I don't care whether it has to be knocked down, rebuilt, dig down, whatever you have. I'm not getting into all the engineering aspects of it. But the seats are too far from the pitch. Those are the two things that bother me. Heritage, stadium, seating proximity. Okay? That's what I want. So you've got to come in, you've got to be able to afford it. Now, I don't just say this now because it's West Ham. If you watch any of the videos I've done historically, be it about West Ham or anyone else, don't like consortiums. Don't like it. I mean, well, why? Why? Roman Abramovich didn't need a consortium. Why? Because he could afford it. Sheikh Mansour consortium? No. He could afford it. Look at Leicester City. Leicester City's run by a family. They can afford it. That's why, at the moment, when football's more or less skint, they've already spent 40 million. You know, very, very sad thing happened with Leicester City and the owner. And the son has just carried on because it's a family business. No consortium was needed because they can afford it. If I go and buy something later on, I can either afford it or I can't. If I can't afford it, I'm probably not the type of guy who's going to be able to put a consortium together, but it would indicate that I can't. PAI Capital, who want to take over West Ham, I'll get into the details in a minute, and there aren't a lot of them. There's not much registered at Companies House, so not a lot is known. The only thing I can get close to is PAI Partners. I'm not sure it's the same thing. We'll get onto them in a second. I listened to the statement, and I always think in things like this, you've got a statement from David Sullivan, you've got a statement from Phillip Beard, who's meant to be heading up PAI Capital. He's not registered at all, that I can look on any PAI partners or any registered PAI company. What's the truth? Well, probably as always, these things, somewhere in between. Somewhere in between. David Sullivan saying no bid was received, was it? Probably. He's probably fibbing a little bit there. I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing. Or he's not, maybe not fibbing, but maybe making it sound a little bit less than it was. Or maybe Phillip Beard's making it sound a little bit more than it was. I certainly got the impression that that they were playing to the galleries with their statement yesterday, and playing to the galleries, talking about the heritage, talking about London. But as Gio alluded to in his video, there was a lot of talk about the infrastructure, the area around Stratford, the Olympic Park, Olympic Village. Can't remember the exact words of it, which certainly would indicate that they do have one eye set on the property there. I mean, it is a massive feather in the cap for anybody that that wants to get West Ham, that you might well get that stadium, get what they would call prime real estate for it. What doesn't concern me, and here's the thing, and I don't like this sort of thing, because I think it takes people for fools. It's by saying we've got West Ham legends on board and ex-West Ham players. Well, I don't care. I don't care. What I want to know is, because, by the way, I've looked at Phillip Beard, and Phillip Beard can't afford to buy West Ham, right? Simple as that. He cannot afford to buy West Ham. So he's put a consortium together. So I don't want to know whether Tony Cottee or anybody else is going to be the ambassador for a takeover. I don't want to know if Billy Bonds is on board. I don't, at this stage, I don't care. What I want to know is, are we going to be one of the clubs that gets taken over like Leicester and thrive, or are we going to be one of the clubs that gets taken over like Leeds or like Portsmouth and completely nosedives because there is not the capital in place to take the club forward? Now, I would suggest the fact that a consortium is needed would indicate that no one individual has got the capital to take the club forward. I mean, that stands to reason, right? Otherwise, someone would just come out and buy it. It's a weird scenario. So what I want to know is, at this point, if this happens, what I'm about to say now, I'd get excited. I think, oh, this is good. You know, we can move the club forward. So don't tell me who the figureheads are. Don't tell me who are going to be giving platitudes and talking fondly of history and pie and mash and this, that and the other. I don't want to know. Who's putting the money in? We're told that it's a London-based consortium. So I'm imagining a London-based businessman. Now, who is putting in the money, and how much money do you have? It's our business as West Ham fans. It absolutely is. We want to know, and we should know, who is going to be looking to take control of the club. And we deserve to know, because we want to know about their money, because we're going to be asked for ours. Anyone that takes over, they're going to be asking for our season ticket money, they're asking for our television money, and they're going to be pledging to take the club forward. Will show us. And it's quite funny, actually, because one of the arguments between Sullivan and Beard is Sullivan saying there was no proof of funds. Beard is saying, oh, there were proof of funds. I'm not saying they've got to drive around my house and show me, but as fans, I'd like to be shown proof of funds. I'd like them to get in touch with them. I'd like them to get in touch with someone like Hammers United or something like that. Quite frankly, I'd like to know what is going on. I'd like them to reassure us as fans that they have the money and they're going to go and press ahead and do it properly. Because there's been enough instability at this club, and I think we need reassurance. Massively need reassurance as fans. I don't really need any more of this. And it does worry me. I'm not in the camp of anyone but Golden Sullivan for the reason I gave at the start, which is Carsten Young. It worries the hell out of me that actually we're going to be sold. Golden Sullivan move off with a big profit, a huge profit, and we're sold to somebody unscrupulous. The only thing that I like when they say it, and I'm not even sure I overly believe it all the time, which is we'll only sell West Ham to somebody that can move the club forward and can afford to fund them in the future. Basically, it suggests they will only sell it to somebody that can make us better. I like that. I'm not sure if I believe it. I like that. So what I need now is I need convincing that PAI Capital are that firm. And that PAI Capital are not just somebody coming in and taking advantage of a situation, which is West Ham fans are desperate to get rid of the owners, desperate to have somebody else, so they're going to come in, take advantage of that, drive a wedge in between that rift between the fans and between the owners, make it even wider, and then think that they can sort of slip in there and take us over. And really, if they're going to do that and their only eye is on the property around the Olympic Stadium, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. The boring stuff, PAI Capital can't find anything really. Phillip Beard, it's not a lot on him, to be perfectly honest with you. Look, he was part of the consortium with Tony Fernandez, I believe, that took over QPR. They did terribly. They were in a terrible state. You'd have to, by anyone, this is only my opinion, and they look in a terrible. My brother supports QPR, so you may or may not know. They're in a terrible state. This was not a successful takeover. So what I want, I know he can't, he's doing something else. I want Trevor Birch to be involved. Now there's somebody who has a history of a good transition takeover. But he's not. So again, if we go look at Golden Sullivan, we go on one example of them selling a club. Well, it weren't very good. They did a terrible job of it. Terrible job. Selling to Carsten Young, come on. And you look at Phillip Beard. Well, we've only got one example again of him taking over a club. We did a terrible job. QPR was awful. It don't look great, by the way. And this is why I'm finding it hard to sort of rejoice in this and get excited about it. Because we don't know where the money's coming from. We don't know who's fronting the money. We don't know who's behind the bid. I just don't see it. Look, recently, what was the guy's name? Is it the Spotify guy that tried to take over Arsenal? It was just him. I can't remember his name, but it was him on his own. He didn't need a consortium. He didn't need one. He's minted. He's just saying, I'll buy it. Here I am. I'll buy it. Whatever. I think was he bidding 800 million or a billion? I can't even remember what it was, to be honest with you. But he's got so much money, he doesn't need someone to front him. These people don't have people to front them generally. Look, Roman Abramovich has a chairman, a director of football, but when Roman Abramovich came in, it's him that bought the club. And he did it. What do you want? Check? Cash? How do you want it? That's what I want to see. Not... do you know what it reminds me of? I've got to be honest with you. Consortiums remind me of me and my mates when we were 18 years of age, 17 years... Actually, let's go with 18 because they're drinking age. Trying to whip round together and seeing if between us we had enough change in our pocket for 4 tins of beer and a pizza. Has anyone got it? Have we got it? Can we afford that? Can we afford... Oh, we can't. Okay, 4 tins of beer and 2 garlic breads. It seems a bit like that, really. You know, buy the football club. Oh, you can't buy the football club. You've got the money. Okay. I don't know. The PAI capital can't find anything. The closest I can find is PAI partners. And funny enough, they come up when you search for PAI capital. Might just be the search engine. I don't know. I hope it's not, because they're an investment firm, an equity investment firm, PAI partners. And you look down the list, and they take over a company, and you look next to it. There's liquidated, and then there's one in exiting process. It's not like I'm looking at a list of here which is saying struggling company now flourishing, struggling company now flourishing. That's not what's happening. Struggling company liquidated, struggling company liquidated. That's what's happening. That may not be PAI capital. That might be PAI partners. All I would suggest is if you were a bunch of billionaires and multi-millionaires and you were looking to name something, you possibly wouldn't name it after them because it might create confusion. You'd want a completely separate name, wouldn't you? Or maybe that's just me. Maybe I'd have a simplistic understanding of such situations. Anyway, I need to hear an awful lot more. All right, I don't want to see Tony Cotti, or nothing against Tony Cotti, by the way, but I want to see a figurehead wheeled out. I want to see the money men. I want to know what they've got. I want to know what they plan to do. And I want to detail. I don't want to hear platitudes. I don't want to hear we've all got pie and mash coursing through our veins, and we're all born between close enough to hear the sound of bow bells and all the rest of it. I don't want to hear all that. I don't want to hear all that. What you're going to do with a stadium, how much you're going to invest, that's what I want to know. How are you going to take us forward? And that's what I want from their part. From the owner's part, I don't know if they have to disclose anything. I don't know. I'm guessing because they haven't disclosed everything, the law suggests they can do what they want. But I'd quite like a plan of action from them, actually. Because, again, that lacks clarity. We understand there's been some credit agreements so as we can go and borrow money. Bearing in mind we're not signing any players at the moment, the owners could do, and bearing in mind we've got what I just said with Vladimir Sufal. Thanks, Alan, for sending the video, by the way, yesterday. Bearing in mind we're not signing anyone, bearing in mind fans are worried, maybe they should come out with a statement and say what their intent is with West Ham. If not, sign some players. I mean, just sign some players, 2 or 3 players through the door. A good start to the season, and no one's worrying about anything. I mean, it's that, look, that old adage is you only sing when you win. And yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. By the flip reverses, you only moan when you're losing. Maybe. But we're worried at the moment because there's no players coming in. And whilst that's not happening, we're thinking there's no investment. And while there's no investment, there's somebody else saying, oh, I'll give you investment. The only trouble is that one person holding up his arm and saying, oh, I'll invest, is not the person that's investing. The truth of the matter is, not only do we not know who's investing, we don't know how much money they've got. I know how much money I've got. A little bit. We don't know how much money they've got. And surely that's the key. I'm afraid at this point, just more questions and answers.